Lincolnshire, with its curving coastline, is home to many hidden treasures. Today, I'm exploring the village of Tetney as I followed the canal all the way from Louth to the loch and will finish at Humberston Fitties. My journey has seen me sample the delights of the Georgian market town of Louth and follow the navigation canal as it winds its way to the coast. Along the way, I've learnt about the devastation the floods caused the market town.
Yes, the Lord Mayor of London opened a special fund for people to contribute to.
And how the canal had a huge impact on the economy.
Canal opened in 1770 and it's 12 miles basically from the sea to Louth itself, and it was really to get corn and wool out of Louth and to get things like timber and coal, stone, fruit and vegetables, and then eventually it brought just about everything in and took whatever we wanted out. And it made Louth, in that later Georgian period, it gave Louth a lot of money.
And so now I continue my journey along the canal, heading towards the village of Tetney, said to have once been the ancient island belonging to Tita. At one time along here there was a pub called the Ship Inn, and sadly it's no longer here, because if it was I'd be stopping for something to eat and drink. Now, judging by the clouds that are coming over, it's going to rain soon, so I'm going to keep going to my next destination, which is Tetney. As we approach Tetney Loch, the new road bridge crosses the canal where the original loch and wooden bridge stood. This part of the canal was the most hazardous, for entry was from the sea into the tranquillity of the haven. The buildings here all hark back to those days when the loch was a bustling hive of industry. There were at least two pubs, the Ship Inn and the Crown and Anchor, but only the latter survives. One field in the area is named Catchgarth, the field where the Danes allegedly landed and left their ships, and we'll learn more about what they did in the village later. Standing proud in the village is St. Peter and St. Paul Church, which is said to have scorch marks on its tower, a remnant of the devastation caused by the Vikings. However, I can't seem to find them, but as with most churches, renovations took place in the Victorian age, sweeping away many of the old fabrics or reusing them. Inside the work there are traces of Saxon and Norman stonework, and on one of the arches there's a Latin inscription which says the work was accomplished in 1363 and it's signed Robert Day, Vicar. Outside in the graveyard there are some interesting graves. There are not many old ones left, but the earliest, which is a find, is from 1740. Now, there are so many graves in here, but there are two in particular that I've been looking for. One is to the Reverend John Wilde, who was a vicar here, but he wrote a book on the history of Tetney in 1901. And the second is for the Reverend T.R. Matthews, who was well known for composing music to hymns such as "O My Saviour Lifted," but I've yet to find them, so I'll keep searching. Go well. I'm hoping, as I look round, that the Reverend Christopher Woden may know where they are. And on your website, it was talking about the two vicars, Reverend Wilde, who wrote a book in 1901 about the village.
Yes.
Who was buried in the southwest corner. And
well, if you find it, let me know, because I don't know who the residents are out there.
And
then
I
have too many churchyards to look after.
And then Reverend Matthews, who composed a number of hymns, who's buried here, but we can't find him either. Oh. No joy, but that doesn't mean they're not here. Churchwarden Ivor Day was able to entertain me with his rendition of "Thou Didst Leave Thy Throne and Kingly Crown."
But in Bethlehem's home there was found no room for the holy nativity. Oh, come to my heart, Lord Jesus, there is room in my heart for thee. Foxes found rest, and the bird had its nest in the shade of the cedar tree. But thy couch was the sod, O thou Son of God, in the desert of Galilee. Oh, come to my heart, Lord Jesus, there is room in my heart for thee.
Now here in the vestry are two pre-Reformation tombstones. They date from about 1280 and were discovered when the church was restored in 1862. Now it's not known who the couple are, but it's believed they were very wealthy, as gravestones like this were costly in the medieval period. And if you look very closely at the detail, you'll notice black and red paint, as most churches were highly decorated. On a sombre note, outside in the churchyard is the grave to a family who were drowned and ended up being washed up on the beach. As we leave the church behind, you'll see the remains of the stump of a 14th century cross. Tetney, though 2 miles from the sea, was once a busy market town and port for the export of salt from the local salt workings, which disappeared in 1620 to be replaced by the wool trade. This marketplace was once busy with a hustle and bustle of traders and buyers. Now the only thing that's busy about it is the fact that a main road passes through. Now in the 19th century, excavations unearthed a number of human bones and Danish knives in this area. I wonder if those were the remains of a battle fought by the marauding Vikings who landed here in 900 AD. In Doomsday, the village was divided into 2 manors by the Norman lord Ivo Talboys, who held many lands in Lincolnshire. In North End, the present manor farmhouse replaced an earlier version. In the 13th and 14th centuries, the manor was lived in by the de Elkington family, who've a memorial to them in the church. And as we leave Tetney for our final destination, we pass the Marconi Beam Station. Now only the bases remain, but it was from here that telegrams to Australia and India were sent. It was part of the Imperial Wireless Chain, a communications network set up to link the countries of the British Empire. So our journey from Louth to Tetney has taken us along the beauty of the navigation canal. We've seen the natural delights of the area and learnt about its heritage. In Tetney, we discovered the village had once been a thriving market town and port, which had suffered at the hands of the invading Danes. But now it's time to head to the coast and the Humberston Fitties, a village really in its own right, and one that was set up for the rich to take in the sea air, being sited by the mouth of the Humber estuary. As the area developed, more and more chalets were built. The land has been local authority owned since 1938, and there are now over 300 plots on lease. And I'm here to meet Paul Harwood, who is one of many who've chosen to live here. So Paul, we've come down to look out over the estuary. Just tell us a brief history then about the Fitties. How did it all start?
Ooh, it goes back. I mean, there's been people settled in and around the salt marshes for centuries. The Fitties itself came about in the late 1800s with the introduction of what they call plotlands,
Right.
which were pieces of land that were no longer agriculturally viable, and they were given over to the leisure and pleasure of the local population. So people started coming down here first of all with tents and bits and pieces, and then gradually after the First War it took off with the returning soldiers.
Right.
Because what had happened there, that quite a few of them would bring their families down here for the peace and quiet. Those Grimsby chums that survived, I suppose, wanted and needed a place to relax and to contemplate what they'd been through. And it started to then escalate into more tents. The forts were built at the end of the First War. Those troops in turn, when they left, there still were people coming back here then.
Right.
And it built up, I believe, to about 173 odd chalets or huts were down here. But there was all sorts of things were used. There was even double-decker buses down here, railway carriages, all sorts of things.
Join me after the break when I continue my talk with Paul. Lincolnshire, with its curving coastline, is home to many hidden treasures. Today, I'm exploring the coast on the final leg of my journey from Louth. From the market town of Louth, my route has seen me take in the peace of Alvingham and its 2 churches, to the once busy village of Tetney, and now I'm at the Humberston Fitties. Humberston takes its name from a large glacial boulder deposited in the Ice Age and known as the Humber Stone. Nearby is the Humberston Fitties, a group of wooden chalets that were first put up around the First World War and used by the rich to come and take the sea air. And I'm here talking to resident Paul Harwood about the history of the place.
Railway carriages, all sorts of things. To us that live here, it's a shame that some of those have gone.
You're a bit quirky.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that sums up the Fitties, quirky.
Yeah.
It's like stepping back in time when you walk around here. And that's the way that we want to keep it.
So how many chalets are down here?
There are 300 and odd plots.
Right.
Not all of them have chalets on them. That's one of the things the council don't. They did at one time sell off the plots for people to build on. They don't do that anymore, so there are quite a few vacant plots. It's something we would like to see change, obviously. I mean, we want to see the Fitties carry on and to, if you like, evolve in the way that it always has done. We don't want it to become modern down here. It is. There are certain places on here, mine being one of them, that are built of brick. But to be honest, I still feel myself that the brick doesn't really fit.
And are there any guidelines to what people can build with a chalet?
The council issue a chalet guide, which says what you can do and can't do. But we're also a conservation and preservation area. Conservation on the land and preservation of the buildings. So as far as that's concerned, the whole of the Fitties, because of its mishmash of different buildings, different techniques of building, etc., it maintains that quirky character that people love and enjoy when they come walking down here. I mean, the amount of visitors that we have each year here is phenomenal.
You had a Heritage Weekend. How did that weekend go?
It went extremely well. The culmination of the event on the Sunday was the releasing of 1,200 plus balloons, red balloons, each one with the name of a soldier that had died from the Grimsby Chums during the First War. The release took place. It was quite spectacular with the amount of balloons going up.
I bet it was.
Austin Mitchell and Martin Vickers, our local MPs, did the release. We had a piper there that was dressed in the uniform of the Black Watch of the First World War. So it was quite a poignant situation. Everybody seemed to enjoy the weekend as such, because it was a celebration as well as a commemoration.
Yes, yeah.
And that's the way that we wanted to put it forward.
And I know while we've been sat here, I can see there's plenty of dog walkers and people on bikes. Is it always as busy down here?
This isn't busy.
Oh, this is quiet.
At the moment, this is quite slack. During the summer, we're absolutely inundated with visitors, and that's the way it should be. The Fitties belongs to the people that want to come down here and see it. We that live here, we're just the custodians. As far as that's concerned, we're the lucky ones. We're the ones that live here, and it's such a gorgeous place to live.
It is. And are there any remnants of those original chalets?
Right behind us here, there's one that's been there. They can trace themselves back, the chalet back about 80 years. There's a couple more further down the site. If you carry on the sea defence here and walk down, eventually as you're coming towards the yacht club, on the right hand side there's a big black chalet. That was the sergeant's mess.
Oh, right.
At one time during the Second War, and then it became a scout hut, and now it's privately owned, obviously, but there's a lot of history steeped here.
So the Fitties really, it's like its own village, isn't it?
So yes, we are a community, a very special community. I mean, the people here are as unique as the chalets they live in, you know, and every chalet is different. There are no two chalets the same, really. Same in construction, but certainly not the same in appearance.
Yeah. And you've got your own shops down here, haven't you?
Not really, no. We did have, but our neighbours, Thorpe Park, have taken over those shops. So the shops themselves are not really, although they can be used by the people on the Fitties, they're not really the sort of places that the people on the Fitties want to use. Not because of the fact they belong to Thorpe Park, that's wrong to say that, but they are expensive.
Now, there's a very active neighbourhood watch down here, and Coast Watch, which you belong to, what does that do?
As far as that's concerned, the Neighbourhood Watch and the Coast Watch are pretty well one and the same. If it comes to, like last December when we had the tidal surge, then the Neighbourhood Watch and Coast Watchers would be up here on the sea defences, watching the tides, seeing if there was any danger points, and literally looking for any problems that were likely to occur, and warning the residents. And that's where it all is. That's what it's all about, really, is keeping in touch with our community, knowing their needs and where people are that are likely to need help if an emergency does arise.
Now, the reality was, during that tidal surge, you were all safe and dry, not what national media were saying, that you were under 3 foot of water, which the reality was you were all safe and dry, weren't you?
We were. If we had 3 inches of water on here, that would have been maybe a bit of an exaggeration. What happened here was that the salt marsh at the bottom, heading towards Tetney, that did what it was supposed to do, which was to flood.
Right.
And that's what it's meant to do. As far as the Fitties were concerned, the sea defences here held without a real problem. There were a couple of places where there was the water ate away at the banks a little. There was one place where the water came over the path that had been put, a concrete path, gave the water a way in. It came over there, and one wave in 7 was able to wash a little bit of water over the top of that. That water only just reached the bottom. I've got photographic evidence of this. It only just reached the bottom of the road.
And I imagine that panicked people who had, you know, relatives down here or even had houses down here.
Well, believe it or not, that news, of course, went out on YouTube, it went out on Facebook, it went out all over the place. And we had people on here that were getting calls from as far afield as Australia and New Zealand. We had one call that came in from South America. Other calls came in from the United States, all of relatives of people that are living on here, worried to death.
Yeah.
Our own daughter was stopped by the police from coming onto the site because they said it was too dangerous, and she was worried sick that her mother and I, who were both on watch at the time, were in danger, but we were not in any danger at all.
It's a pleasant, lovely place to look at, but it has its hidden dangers out there, doesn't it, with the tide?
It does. You've got the council's beach safety people that come along here during the summer, but you've got the Neighbourhood Watch and the Coast Watch. that are here also to watch for other things happening at different times of the year. I mean,
Yeah.
it's coming up to the time of the year now when, like last December, when we ended up with, because of the surge, we ended up with a number of seal pups on the beach down here that have been washed away from the nurseries up at Donnanook and further on.
So you could sit on this bench for hours and see something new all the time.
This is an artist's paradise, really, because there's so many different ways that you can portray a coastal scene like this. I mean, just looking at it now, you've got one sky to the right and a completely different sky to the left. So from my point of view, as far as an artist is concerned, if you tried to paint that, people won't believe it.
What, I suppose, sums up what life is like here at the Fitties? How would you describe it?
Adventurous, I suppose. It's different. It's totally what you make it, but all of the people that come to here to live, excuse me, as I've said before, all the people here are as unique as the chalets they live in. The one thing they've all got in common is that they love a sense of freedom, and that's what this place gives you. It gives you a feeling of freedom every time you come up here and look out there, except for the wind farm. But you look out onto the horizon, and the horizon is never ending.
Yeah.
And that gives you the sense of what it's like to be here. It's a completely changing picture every day.
It is, isn't
There's
it?
nothing boring about being on the Fitties.
I was going to say, it is lovely that you can have that freedom and that you've got all this around you. And you say you've got different landscapes here, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
So you'll be here as long as you can be.
I'll be here until they drag me off.
Our journey from Louth to Tetney took us along the navigation canal, where we learned about how the villages have had to adapt and change over the years. And then we've come here to the Humberston Fitties, where we've learned all about the history of the place and how people came, as they do now, to take in the sea air. So it's on to my next destination. So until next time, happy rambling.